Hello guys and welcome back to the Behind the Dugouts for your post-match review of Chelsea 4, Benfica and Mother Nature 1. And never in all my years of watching football have I experienced a game like this. This hands down has to be probably one of the best performances Chelsea have produced under Maresca, under the ownership. Just the circumstances alone, to be dominant from minute 1 up until minute 86, players leaving the field. At first I didn't quite understand what was happening until the commentator sort of said there was a lightning strike happening, for then the game to be postponed for the next 2 hours. There was 4 minutes left to play. 4 minutes, bar maybe a little bit of stoppage time, but 4 minutes left on the clock of the 90 minutes. And I have to give my props to the players to endure those circumstances, to come off the field after playing 86 minutes of football, to completely cool down. And it is completely, it's not half an hour break, which other games have had, and then they've come back to continue. This was 2 hours. These players were completely cool. Maresca made comments that they were eating. All they could do in the changing room was ride a bike to keep themselves as warm as possible. To getting back on the field, the game kicked off at 9 p.m. UK time. 1 a.m. were they coming back out, re-warming up. Players should not be going through this. Risk factor for injuries alone due to this is substantial. Players having to cool down, re-warm up, and then try and play more football. And obviously, of course, Benfica were going to get a goal to take it into extra time just to make it even worse. And we're not even going to talk about the referee. You can't more blatantly be biased to one team. Just wanted to give them everything. But players should not go through these circumstances. But props to them and how well they coped with this to come out with not just a 1-0 victory in the end, but a convincing battering of Benfica. But look, I do have to say this, it does pose a question that should the World Cup be held in America? I don't think so. Personally, I think we need to start looking to move it to Brazil even. The competition in the World Cup is going to be dramatically larger than the Club World Cup. And if they're going to have this many games postponed, I think it's about 6 to 7 games they've had postponed in the Club World Cup so far. We can't be having that in the World Cup. You can't be having that many games, and it's, by the sounds of it, it could be even worse. So I do think this is something that they really, really need to reevaluate and potentially move the World Cup. Look, let's talk about the game. I was contemplating whether to do this in 2 videos, considering it was basically 2 legs of football, but we're just going to do the one on this. Now, as I mentioned, from minute 1, I felt we dominated Benfica. I don't think they really had any clear-cut opportunities. We were having more of the big chances. We were breaking in behind quite often. Cucurella had quite a few chances to score. Obviously, we had the Liam Delap offside. I think their standout player, which pretty much saved them in this game, was their goalkeeper in Trubin. He was superb. At one point, I thought it was going to be one of those days where he's not going to be beaten. It's going to be a scrappy little goal that they're going to score and beat us 1-0. It just looked like that. But of course, up steps Capitano in Reece James, and there is no way that he should be beating this goalkeeper from that angle. The effort alone was just audacious in itself. The fact that he felt that he could beat the keeper on his near post like that, in sort of the circumstances of the game that it was in, high pressure, you've got to have balls to do that. And to be fair to Reece James, he is one of those players that I would expect to be able to do that. But what a free kick. But even though it was a free kick that put us in front, again, I don't think Benfica really troubled us in any shape or form. We were dominant all over the pitch. Now, they tried to box the midfield up. At one point, I was seeing about 10 players just in the midfield circle alone. So the midfield was really, really packed. But Caicedo and Lavia bossed that midfield. Them two together, they looked brilliant yesterday. Obviously, Caicedo having a better game than Lavia, but together they just worked well. That ball that Lavia put in through to Cucurella to get in one-on-one with the keeper was superb, breaking those lines with those passes. And they just mopped up everything. They gave Benfica little time on the ball. They didn't give them any clear-cut opportunities. And it worked the way through the team. You had the odd occasion where players were making, a few mistakes. I think at one point Robert Sanchez rolled the ball straight to a Benfica player. But on a whole, the performance was really, really good. Just in terms of they were up for it. And I said they needed to have more intensity. They needed to come out and they needed to want this. They couldn't just, coast through this game. And they did that, to be fair to them. They came out from the off and they were going at it from minute 1 up until, the 86th minute when the game was stopped. And then we talk about the restart. I had a feeling this was going to happen as soon as the game was stopped. I felt that when they were going to come out, Benfica were going to score to make this game go on even longer. I just could picture it. And we have to talk about Malo Gusto here. I know he's, a versatile player and Maresca wants him to, try different roles, 100%. But I don't recall him telling you to play goalkeeper, Gusto, and you felt the need to catch the ball in the box to give away a penalty. Ridiculous decision. I don't quite know. You can argue that it's 50-50, that he's not even looking at the ball, but his arm's in an unnatural position. If the ball hits it, it's going to be a penalty regardless if you're looking at the ball or not. It was a silly decision from him, and obviously Di Maria steps up, converts the penalty and takes us in to extra time at 1-1. Obviously, the game changed, and to be honest, we got what we deserved. They got their red card, the game opened up, and then we absolutely blitzed them. The counter-attacking play, again, we got dominant, back on the ball, foothold into the game, nullified everything that they were throwing at us, and when we hit on the break, we hit with quality, we've hit with pace, and the subs that Maresca made, he had to make. There was no way that all those players that were on the pitch were going to last through the whole game, especially going into extra time. And Maresca made those changes to freshen up the squad, to bring a bit more energy, because we needed it. Those legs were looking tired and we needed it to get over the line. And the subs that he made done their job. Christopher Nkunku, great goal, Fox in the box, played with his confidence, and it was nice to see the togetherness. When he scored. Christopher Nkunku is a player that I've mentioned quite a few times that has looked disinterested in the football that he's playing. But last night, he didn't. When he scored, you could see it meant something to him, which was nice to see. I still expect him to be sold. I'm still fine with that. But it was just nice to see that even though he knows that's on the horizon, that he still gave it his all and still felt that passion when he did score, because that was pretty much the catalyst going forward, which led on to, Neto's goal to make it 3-1. Again, Neto showing how important he is. I think on the break, when we're counter-attacking, we're just getting in behind, we're hitting people on the break, he is one of the better players, if not our best player, to do that. Every time he gets in behind on that break, he looks like he's going to score, and scoring in another game, building up that confidence. He is looking like our most lethal attacker at the moment. So I'm super, super happy for him. And another player who he goes under the radar a little bit. His performances are generally pretty average. So there's not much to talk about. But I think Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, for the fact that he sits on the bench 99.9% of the time, but when he comes on, he always gives everything that he can, to the best of his ability. He pops up with goals. He did that quite a lot in the Conference League, and he's done it here again. He's made a great run through the middle of the pitch, played in, and another lovely finish, again from a player that's not seen many minutes, but still shows that, he's willing to do whatever he can to propel the club forward, which I'm super happy for about it. I'm super happy for him, to come on the pitch, to get some more minutes, to get a goal. And in the end, it was a complete battering of Benfica. And I have to be honest, they offered nothing. At one point, I was confused if I was even watching Benfica. It did feel like we were back in the Conference League. And that may be a bit harsh, and maybe my expectations of the level of threat that they were going to bring was a little bit higher, But they did, to me, they were really underwhelming. And I don't think they offered us too much threat across the entire two legs of football, to be honest. But I do think the poor performance from Benfica was more down to how we played the football and how we controlled the game. And, the players that I wanted to step up, that needed to have a good game, did. Palmer in particular, I think he did step up in this game. He did have a better game than he normally has had, especially of recent times. And he played well, unlucky not to score, especially with that near post shot that he did, but got an assist, in the end, played the entirety of the game. And yeah, he played really, really well. I think the midfield was really compact, but when we were attacking, they spread wide and they were creating option. He was basically playing more of a left-sided 10 left winger today. Cucurella was overlapping him. I didn't really see Cucurella come much into the central defensive midfield or in the 10 position. He was more playing as a conventional left back, really, or a left wing back, just bombing up and down the wing. But I do have to say, I think if we had a left winger on the pitch, the team would look a bit more balanced. Don't get me wrong, Cole Palmer and Cucurella had a really, really good game, but I do think that having a left winger, you know, a proper one-on-one master that likes to take on players, the squad would look a bit more balanced on that side in this game. Obviously, the news has dropped about Gittins. You know, we had Fabrizio Romano confirming the here we go, so it's just a matter of time before he ends up in, you know, a Chelsea shirt. The medical will be booked, paperwork will be signed, and you'll soon have a picture of him holding up the shirt. But look, end of the day, Benfica, you tried your best. The biased referee, he tried his best. And Mother Nature, boy, did she try her best. But nothing is going to stop this Chelsea train from rolling. And I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing for the next game. Palmeiras, we're coming for you next. Esteval, be ready. We know the South American sides, what they like, what they bring to the game. They're going to bring that fire. They're going to bring that, you know, that technical quality, those flair players. It's going to be a tough game, but I'm confident. I feel like we're going to get through them and get into the semis, and I'm super excited for the next game. Now, that's all from me, guys. If you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button, drop a comment below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Up the Chelsea.